Welcome back to Night Mine, friends. It's time to finish the long game and end this Marble Hornets Explained series for good with the second and last part of our Season 3 review. Last time, we left off with Jay and Tim escaping the operator at Alex's old house, and while Jay is worse off than ever before, Tim seems to be doing amazingly well, taking over Jay's position as lead investigator. Back on the Marble Hornets YouTube channel, entry number 73 is uploaded, but it comes from Hoodie breaking in again. He discovers his home has been ransacked, but the intruder didn't find what they were looking for. Hoodie reaches up to the space above a wall and pulls out Alex's gun. The words "You are a failure" appear as Hoodie walks through the woods, a clear message to Alex for failing to get his gun back. Hoodie goes to the red shack where Jay and Alex woke up last season and suffers a serious coughing fit accompanied by heavy distortion, but shakes it off. Hoodie carries on to his next location, and we find he hasn't just stolen Tim's pills once to send Jay on the chase that ended with he and Tim waking up in the red shed. He's been stealing and taking them all along and just ran out. Hoodie goes back to Tim's house and explores his medicine cabinet, finding some spares among a sea of empty bottles. On the way out, he explores an odd wooden box in the corner of the room where a tape is hidden under some plastic bags. Hoodie hears some noise down the hallway and checks it out just in time to see the ladder has dropped from the attic. Someone is coming downstairs. He escapes and hides out near the front of the house, camera pointed at the window where the silhouette of Alex appears. In entry number 74, Tim comes back from picking up some snacks to find Jay in a zombie state outside their motel room. He brings him back inside and they talk. Jay's been out of it and can't remember a lot of things. Tim shares that he managed to stand up to the operator after immediately taking some of his meds, so he gave Jay some pills after the attack to help him recover. Jay doesn't want his pills and tells Tim not to do that again. Tim shares that Hoodie uploaded a video showing he was in Tim's house, and it clearly isn't the first time it's happened. Also, Alex is in Tim's attic waiting to get the jump on them. This video seems to be just a character building exercise at first, but serves two very strong story points. First, Jay is not doing well since the operator attack in Alex's house. Something is really starting to come undone inside him, and the work the operator's been doing on Jay's mind since Marble Hornets is entering its final stage. The second point is one Tim brings up in a way anyone watching can understand. The pills are the secret to fighting off the operator. The more medication Tim takes, the easier it is to withstand the attacks, and we know what happens when he can't get to them during a coughing fit. If Tim hadn't shared with Jay, Jay might not even be able to form words right now. This medication reveal also allows the previous entry from Hoodie to make so much more sense than before. He goes to the red shed, has a severe coughing fit, is almost engulfed by the camera distortion, then recovers, gets up, and carries on. He already has medication in his system, so the operator's attack wasn't successful, but it wasn't nearly enough to keep him from knocking Hoodie down, so he goes to his supply and takes some more. Unfortunately, it's the last of the pills, so it's off to Tim's house to resupply. This new information is majorly important. Hoodie has been successfully keeping the operator out of his brain using Tim's medication for an unknown amount of time, which means that he has been working outside of the operator's influence. He is, however, susceptible to attacks, which means before he got a hold of Tim's medication and in times of running dry, he may have been under the operator's control. We don't know how long this has been going on. He may have been sane for a number of months now. And yes, if you haven't caught on by now, any sort of coughing or wheezing fit is a direct sign of the operator's influence and imminent approach. It's a symptom of the operator's radiation making the infected cough until they either spit up blood or collapse into a seizure fit. The next video uploaded comes from To The Arc, titled Conversion. The numbers at the end mean never cured, never trust. This video is mostly a response to the sight of Jay's near catatonic state after being attacked by the operator. To The Arc is witnessing Jay's conversion to the Masky state that all of the operator's fully infected victims reach, and wonders if he and Tim are able to fight it. The final clear message, remember to look behind you, on a shot of Hoodie being attacked by Alex, seems to indicate that this might actually be from the third To The Arc member. It can go either way. This could be Hoodie telling Jay and Tim to look out behind them for Alex and showing footage of what happened to him to capitalize that point. Or it could be the original To The Arc member reminding Hoodie to be careful out in the field. From the way Hoodie's uploads have been going, I'd personally bet that the amount of serious distortion and disturbing nature of this entry is the work of the other To The Arc user. Hoodie's uploads have been way too clean and straightforward, utilizing mostly live footage with little extra punch. There's also the signature of the original To The Arc uploader in that a good amount of this video features a very distinct red coloring. Entry number 75 is uploaded, in which Jay and Tim storm the house and make sure Alex isn't there. Upstairs, they find he was definitely waiting for them. There's a bed set up and a picture of Amy beneath the pillow. On the back is an address and a message: I have him. It looks like Hoodie took Tim's house back for him, and they nabbed Alex in the process. Downstairs, Tim sees if he can find anything useful to take with him to the address they have, and Jay checks the wooden box where Hoodie found the hidden tape in entry number 73. It's not there, because it's now in Tim's pocket. Jay tries to ask about it, but Tim lies and says he didn't find anything. Jay manages to get the tape from him, and Tim says he can't watch it. He's not ready to see what's on there. He was going to show Jay, but he can't right now or it'll destroy everything. Jay ignores him and leaves with the tape. On September 3rd, Jay tweets, I can't help but think, what if Tim was hiding it for a reason and I'm better off not watching it? Or was he just lying to cover for himself? Jay does decide to upload the tape and labels it entry number 76. But he is outside of the hotel from last season with Masky, who goes into the building and kidnaps Jessica. They bring her to the woods and Masky goes back for Jay while Hoodie keeps Jessica at the base of a tree. Suddenly, Alex shows up with his gun and scares Hoodie off. Jessica slightly remembers Alex but has no idea what's going on and no memory of what he's done, and she willingly goes with him to escape the woods. Alex leads Jessica to the tunnel where he turns the gun on her. A fight ensues, Jessica attempting to wrestle the gun from Alex, and she wins. Before she has any chance to shoot him, Hoodie comes back, ignores Jessica completely, and beats Alex to the ground. Jessica runs into the woods and wanders around before mistaking the operator for a person who might be able to help, and is attacked within seconds. The camera picks up outside the tunnel during morning with Jessica laying on the ground, face turned away, motionless. The operator appears and vanishes with her body, just like last time with the man Alex killed. Masky walks on scene, removes his mask, and the video ends. Once again, we have proof that Alex has been obsessively watching the Marble Hornets channel and Twitter account. He saw the new entries from the hotel Jay uploaded after his failed attempt to kill Jay and Jessica, and Alex realized that not only were they nearby, they both had lost their memory. He was in the clear. Alex had a brief window of opportunity to track them down and finish the murders he intended to carry out in the woodshed, and when Jay uploaded the next to last hotel entry explaining they were going to leave that night, Alex made his way over to catch them outside and finish the job. Hoodie and Masky clearly beat him to it and may have done so for the explicit purpose of saving Jay and Jessica after realizing that Alex, who now knew where they were, would make his move. To the Arc responds with their video, File. The video description is, remove trust, forget it is real. The final frame in the video is, you are distorted, and in the scene with Alex there is a secret message at the top in jumbled words. Bring knife. Entry number 77 shows Jay going to Tim's house with a knife and zip ties in his pocket. They have a fight and Tim gets Jay on the floor where he pulls the zip ties from Jay's pocket and uses them. Tim wants to trust Jay, but doing something like this proves that Jay isn't in the right mind to continue their investigation. Tim is going to the school alone and he'll come back for Jay when he's done there. He takes Jay's camera and leaves with Jay screaming in the background to give it back. Entry number 78 shows Hoodie entering Tim's house shortly after this event. He frees Jay, leaves the camera he took with him, and also lets Jay catch a parting message written on the mirror. Last chance. Jay goes to the address from the back of Amy's picture and finds an old college. Once there, he follows Tim around until encountering Hoodie, who is still fighting operator sickness and doesn't actually want to hurt Jay, but does make him back off. Jay also finds a room downstairs Hoodie left clues in. Lots of pictures of Alex tied to a chair on the wall and a note with a clear message. Benedict Hall. Find Alex. Find the Ark. Jay spots a penknife immediately next to where the note was left, takes it, and tries to get into Benedict Hall but fails. He chooses to set up camp in an opposing building on the top floor, staring out the window in case he spots anything that might help him get inside or get to Alex. To the Arc uploads a new video, Quadrant. The code in Quadrant is broken using a keyboard, the clues for which came from Twitter when To The Arc broke into the account and dropped 2 hints. How do hands talk? And a coded end component for a YouTube link to a video of a man using a keyboard. With the code broken, the full message in Quadrant is as follows. Who am I? Am I the third? I cannot help. The music that plays is from the song 3 Blind Mice. The video description is, did you ever see? Something has happened to make To The Arc doubt their plans and motives and second guess their mission along with 2 other people who were blind to reality. Speeding up the audio also reveals a message.
We look for information. Do not do this. Hold off. Stay put. Everyone is going to... They didn't know how to leave.
Let's run that through again, shall we?
We look for information. Do not do this. Hold off. Stay put.
Now, that first message is actually pretty clear.
We look for information. Do not do this. Hold off. Stay put.
As for the last bit, we need to slow that down by 25% and suddenly it becomes clear.
Everyone is going to... They didn't know how to leave.
This message is definitely incomplete. Where is it everyone is going? And exactly who is there already that didn't know how to leave? We'll find out very shortly, but for now, pay attention to the adamant message in the first half of To The Arc's response to Jay's upload. Hold your formation. Do not do this. Hold off. Stay put. Entry number 80 begins with Jay spotting Tim run out the front doors of Benedict Hall. He seizes his opportunity to get inside and walks around, finding nothing. Jay goes to the basement and is caught by Alex.
Alex? Alex? No. Jay! Jay! Where are you? Jay, come on! You set this up!
In entry number 81, Tim explores the school grounds over the span of 2 nights. He discovers Alex is in Benedict Hall, so he runs out, has a coughing fit, tries to get pills from his car, and finds they've been stolen. Tim blacks out and doesn't wake for hours. He goes back into Benedict Hall upon waking and can't find Jay, but finds his camera and his blood. We get a status update from Tim in entry number 82. He fears a relapse soon if he doesn't get his meds. He finds footage on Jay's laptop he's never seen and plays it for us. Jay goes to the tunnel in Rosswood Park alone and gets portaled around the woods after coming through the other side and runs into the operator. He ends up next to the red shack where he and Tim woke up last season and calls him. Jay has a wicked coughing fit inside the shed, has a seizure with the operator standing over him, and the rest of the footage is Jay running through the woods. Tim never got that voicemail and doesn't even remember getting a call that day. Tim notes that whatever happened at the end of the tape, it turned Jay from apologetic to violent. To The Arc responds with a new video, Null. The video description is location. In entry number 83, Tim finds where Jay sat watching Benedict Hall, wanders around and has a bout of operator sickness, coughing up blood. Tim heads into the hallway and can barely walk a straight line. Hoodie appears at the end and, as Tim breaks down with a coughing fit, Hoodie walks up to him. He taunts him with the missing pills from his bag, then places his mask on the floor in front of him. Tim pushes away, the operator appears and Hoodie takes off. The next sequence speaks for itself.
Why'd you bring me here? I don't belong here. Why did you bring me here?
There's a new message on the mirror in Tim's house. Your fault. Tim turns and sees Jay's body on a pile of operator pages. He has a moment of grief, then spots Hoodie and chases him down through more portaling. After landing back in the school, Tim grabs a wrench and swings at Hoodie, who drops from a ledge before Tim can connect. He goes downstairs and retrieves the tape and his pills from the body, goes to remove the mask, and is scared off by the operator. Tim manages to get home and uploads entry number 84, the tape he'd taken from Hoodie's body. We see Alex setting up a camera for a Marble Hornets casting shoot. He waits around for a while before someone finally shows up.
Hey.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, Brian.
Am I late for the audition?
No, you're actually just in time.
Yes, that's right. Hoodie is Brian. And guess who else is here?
Tanya? Here, you can use that script there. I'm going to have you read for a different character if that's okay.
All right.
I'll walk you through him. I don't have a name for him yet, but he's Brian, the main character Brian, not that Brian's best friend. I imagine him kind of cooler, more apathetic, the kind of guy that always has a cigarette in his mouth, and maybe some sort of facial hair like mustache or sideburns, something like that.
Well, I already smoked, so I guess I'm already halfway there.
Tim even confirms that Hoodie was definitely Brian in his notes at the end, and admits that if he knew it was Brian beforehand, he doesn't have any idea how this all might have played out. In entry number 85, Tim inspects his living room right after the events of the last entry and finds nothing. Just broken zip ties and Jay's knife and camera. No body or operator pages. He waits for weeks to see if Alex shows up, but nothing happens. Tim is getting paranoid, so he begins watching his house from down the street and catches Alex breaking in one night, taking a can of gasoline with him.
You in the attic? That's fine. This is all your fault. I thought it was me, but you're the source. You're the reason any of this happened. Everyone is gone because of you! You left Jay! And you left Brian! Everything that has happened is your fault! And it's not going to end until you're dead! So I'll tell you what. If you don't do the right thing and burn to death, you come and find me. We'll sell this. You know where I'll be.
Tim follows Alex to the door just in time to catch him set the house on fire. Tim escapes but has just lost his house and everything in it. Wait, a house fire? Where have we seen that before?
Firefighters are on the scene of an apartment fire in County's. Shannon has been covering it for us. She joins us now with the latest. Shannon?
And you can take a look behind me. This is the most relaxed we've seen this scene since we've been here. The original...
That's right. Back in Season 1, someone burned down Jay's apartment right after To The Arc scared Jay out. To The Arc, who has obviously now been looking out for Jay for quite a while, also went out of their way several videos ahead of the apartment fire to warn Jay that Alex was watching. Alex, who we know now has been trying to kill Jay to shut him up about what really happened during Marble Hornets after finding out he was getting too close to the truth. Alex, who is now burning down Tim's house to get rid of him, was responsible for burning down Jay's apartment. To The Arc tried to use not just one but two videos to scare Jay out in an attempt to rescue him before Alex burned him alive. This is why the hacked entry video was so extremely straightforward and overt. The previous message meant to spook Jay, which was even titled Warning, was much too cryptic to do the job, so To The Arc used their voice in a new video and explicitly said, "From the start, this has been a game for us. Not anymore. I'm coming for you." Nothing short of directly threatening to break into Jay's apartment again for a kidnapping was going to accomplish To The Arc's real goal, hiding Jay from Alex, who they were watching prepare to track Jay down and shut him up for good. And they knew he would try it too because he just attempted to kill Brian in his house after Jay interviewed Tim. In entry number 86, Tim has no choice but to retaliate and finish this whole mess. He goes to Benedict Hall to confront Alex and spirals through a series of portaling events while fighting him to the death. We won't touch everything in this, especially because this entry is so much better viewed in its entirety, but here are some highlights in sequential order.
Alex, no, this isn't gonna fix anything. It's never gonna stop.
All of this can stop. Everyone else is gone. You're the only one that's left. All you have to do is give up. Then I can stop this disease from spreading to them. You're the one that brought this here. You're the reason it came for us. If I hadn't have done something, it could have spread to even more people. This can finally be over.
Alex, it doesn't have to be like this. It's not protecting you, it's controlling you. We can fight it together. I know what it's like. I can help you. I've had to live with this my entire life. But I've learned how to block it out. I can show you how. If you kill me, then what's going to happen, huh? What's going to happen to you then? You'll just be a shell of a person just like Brian.
I know exactly what happened to Brian. You killed him. And he died here slowly because of you. How's it feel to be like one of your friends now?
What makes you think I'm the only source? There could be hundreds of others. Thousands. You could be spreading it too. It's just using you to get what it wants.
I've done everything to keep this under control. Everyone is dead. Sarah, Seth, Jessica, Amy, Brian, Jay, and now you.
You weren't containing it. You were just feeding it. When you killed Amy, you feel like you're in control then. You missed someone.
You see how it spreads. If there's someone left, you have to kill them. And yourself.
And at long last, entry number 87, our last entry in Marble Hornets. Tim is alive and doing alright after his battle in the last entry. He throws away his mask in a dumpster and leaves. When Tim stops next, he's in a parking lot where he meets up with Jessica.
You doing okay? Haven't been around in a while.
Yeah, I'm fine. They got me on a new prescription, so I'm sleeping better.
That's good.
I mean, not great, but some.
Yeah. Side effects?
The ones you told me about.
Wish I could tell you they went away after a while, but...
It's fine. You still carrying those around everywhere?
Yeah, well, this one's Jay's, but he let me have it.
How is he?
He moved. I think he was finally getting over all this, and he just wanted to...
Start somewhere new?
Yeah.
I was hoping I'd get to meet him, since you said he goes here too, but...
I guess the appointment time just didn't match up. It's actually kind of why I stopped by, is wanted to let you know that I'm probably going to be leaving too.
What? This doctor?
Just this area in general. So that's why I wanted to stop by, let you know this is probably the last time I'll be around, so... Sorry. You said you are doing okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Just remember everything I told you about.
Are you okay? Tim, are you sure? Can I call somebody?
And that's it. That is the end of Marble Hornets. Everything is fine. Except for us, of course, because it's time to finish this analysis for good. So, after all this exploration, how do we even proceed with tackling what's been uncovered? There are a lot of questions to answer and mysteries to explain, so let's go about this with a Hydra approach and take on one head at a time. Hoodie is Brian. It's confirmed by the secret tape Tim retrieves and Alex's moment of taunting Tim's failure to save him, as well as the final To The Arc video. During the Regards segment, we see several flashes of code comprised of 5 characters, the first being I, A, X, and R. If you take the middle character and assume it to be a letter, it's easy to see this is a word scramble. Rearrange the letters, assume the letter X to be the letter B, and you get Brian. There's also a quick frame with a Hoodie drawing during this sequence in the bottom corner. The null code itself hasn't been solved, but it's widely assumed the other flashes of 5 character pieces are just Brian's name coded using past methods into the Arc videos. Going back in time during Season 3, we can start piecing together just what Brian's motives were, but only if we take other characters and their actions into account. Let's start with the most confusing relationship between characters in the entire series: Hoodie and Tim. In their final confrontation, Hoodie taunts Tim with his pills and mask before leading him on a chase that results in fighting and death. Yet before this, Hoodie rescues Tim from Alex after the events of entry number 65. The events from that day only happened after Tim and Jay formed an honest alliance, which Hoodie orchestrated by stealing Tim's pills and exposing his entire medical history. Hoodie used the Marble Hornets Twitter to show Jay he was stalking Tim and added in the description of the observation video, "Waiting on you," which implies he wasn't going to do anything at this point. Hoodie gave Jay a major confrontation piece to get Tim on his level and begin making traction in the investigation, but Jay didn't act on it, so Hoodie went into Tim's room, stole his pills, and forced a sequence of events that got Jay moving. Hoodie, aka Brian, stole Tim's pills because he needed Jay and Tim to work together in hunting down Alex, and Jay was dragging his feet, so Hoodie forced the meeting. It's also why Brian tells Jay, "Look what you have caused," as Tim has a seizure. If Jay had just spoken to Tim after getting the medical files, Brian wouldn't have had to go to these extremes, but it's pretty clear he didn't feel bad about doing it. Brian didn't seem to feel bad about exposing Tim's medical files either, and it's interesting just how hung up Brian is on Tim being a liar. He really wants Jay to know the truth and seems a little bit vicious in condemning Tim for being dishonest, almost as if he's mad at Tim. But what reason would Brian have to be angry with Tim?
When I saw that footage that you got from him, and that person in the background or whatever it was, I couldn't help but think, what if that's what I was seeing when I was in here? What if that wasn't a hallucination at all?
Wait, what are you trying to say?
I'm saying, what if this is my fault? Alex could be a normal person, you could be living a normal life, so could Jessica, so could everybody else if it wasn't for me. I have no way of knowing that for sure. That's always going to be in the back of my mind. How am I supposed to handle that?
I don't think shifting the blame is really going to help anyone right now.
I blamed everybody else except for me, and I could be the one that started this.
I think you just need to relax because all the stress is probably making you really paranoid.
But what if I'm right? What if what happened to me is happening to Alex right now?
Tim didn't need to confess his secrets at the hospital because his medical files already told us. And until Jay had Tim's medical files, the only person who possessed them was Brian. We don't know how long Brian's had them, but Brian knew they were important because he understood what Tim's symptoms meant in terms of being infected by the operator. He understands it far too well because Brian is infected too. We've caught him taking Tim's pills to keep the operator out of his head and succumbing to operator sickness on camera. But beyond the coughing, there's a major symptom buried so deeply it's easy to forget. Victims of operator sickness cough up blood frequently. Alex did it, Tim did it, and Brian did it too. In Jay's first investigation of Brian's house in Season 1, he finds a sink filled with dry blood. At the time, you could assume it had something to do with the violence that occurred here, but people who are shot don't normally stagger to a bathroom, lean over the sink, and cough up blood. And even though Alex tried to shoot Brian, he clearly missed because Brian is alive and well. This blood was a symptom of operator sickness, not a gunshot. Alex coughing up blood in the sink during Season 2 was a callback to the scene in Brian's house from Season 1. We were meant to infer this was a defining scene for more than just Alex's condition. Speaking of Season 1, remember how often in the original Marble Hornets tapes Brian was missing for no good reason? We see him on set a grand total of 2 times, and in both of those tapes, the shoot is interrupted by the operator. Then, no more Brian, and it's brought up a lot by the crew. This was foreshadowing a much later reveal that Brian was infected, and we even have evidence of the event on video from Alex's secret tape. Just like Jay, Brian's been dealing with operator sickness since the filming of Marble Hornets, but ended up displaying much stronger symptoms. Even as Hoodie, he's still fighting it, constantly stealing Tim's pills to keep his mind guarded from the operator and running away when he sees it. Are you starting to piece together why Hoodie's attitude towards Tim is so odd now? Let's have a quick refresher.
More specifically, the director, Alex. Alex Crayley, if you remember.
I don't really remember much. I mean, he was a friend of Brian's, so I didn't really talk to him that much. I mean, he just kind of asked me to be part of the cast for the sake of convenience.
Right. Okay. Did you live near him?
Yeah. I mean, well, I live next to.
Speaking, I mean, he kind of lived in the middle of nowhere, right?
Well, I mean, I live next to Brian, so I mean, I didn't really live near Alex. He was just kind of off.
Okay.
I'm going to have you read for a different character if that's okay.
All right.
I'll walk you through him. I don't have a name for him yet, but he's Brian, the main character Brian, not that Brian's best friend. I imagine him kind of cooler, more apathetic, the kind of guy that always has a cigarette in his mouth.
Screaming at all hours of the night. Had to up my dosage just to calm me down, to the point where I was almost numb.
But these hallucinations, what do they look like?
Well, that's the thing, I can't remember any of them. Probably because of the medication. It didn't cure me exactly, but it kind of leveled me out enough that I was able to go to a normal school. I got transferred to another facility, got into college. That's where I met Brian, the first real friend I remember having.
Hey, Alex, we're gonna go get dinner after this. Do you want to join?
No, I'm fine. You know, I gotta pack up all this stuff. I don't know how long that's gonna take.
I mean, we can wait.
No, you guys go ahead. I don't want to hold you up. I have auditions to go through.
You killed him, and he died here slowly because of you. How's it feel to be like one of your friends now?
Brian and Tim were best friends during the filming of Marble Hornets, which was when Brian was infected by the operator, because he was constantly around Tim. Tim didn't have issues with the operator because he was taking his medication, which we know from the time he had a coughing fit in Brian's house during entry number 20. But from seeing the operator constantly around Alex and Brian, we know Tim passed it on even if he was coping. As Alex broke under the weight of his infection and Brian began slipping away, Tim stayed clean. Fast forward 3 years and Brian is suffering to the point of coughing up blood in the sink. Then Alex breaks in and tries to kill him after seeing Jay's interview online with Tim. Brian survives the attack, THAC comes along and collects him for their mission, and Tim joins the group shortly after as Masky. Brian and Tim are suddenly best friends again after barely any contact for years. They decide Alex is the one responsible for all of their issues, so Tim and Brian work together to hunt him down. As far as Brian knows, Alex is the bad guy. He brought the operator around, he led his crew into traps for it, and now he's trying to kill people to keep them quiet about what he did. It's easy for Brian to pinpoint Alex as the cause of all their problems, until he finds Tim's medical records. For more than 4 years, Brian's physical and mental health was plummeting, and he'd been led to believe it was Alex's fault. He joined up with his old best friend Tim, who also claimed Alex was definitely the issue, and together, they worked to hunt him down. And after at least a year of running through the woods at night, conspiring to commit murder together, and bonding over their mutual need for revenge, Brian discovers that Tim, his best friend, is the real problem. And to make it worse, he'd known all along. Tim is a liar. From this point forward, Brian could watch all the videos he wanted with Alex abusing Tim and still say, "Enjoy watching you suffer." After all, Brian was betrayed by the one true friend he had. But this still doesn't clear up their relationship entirely, does it? How did the Hoodie and Masky act work if Tim was in an operator trance like he told Jay? How did they meet up with Brian and To The Arc in the first place? Why doesn't Tim remember any of it, and why doesn't he remember Brian was Hoodie? The mystery unravels when you ask what kind of mental state Tim's really in while wearing the mask. The story he tells us, and the story that's easy to believe, is that when he's wearing the mask, he is not in control of his own mind because the operator has broken in. Allegedly, when Tim is Masky, he has no memory of what he does or why he does it. But if that's the case, if that's the absolute truth, why would Masky, who claimed to be an agent of the operator's will, ever freely work with Hoodie, who is trying to kill Alex, the operator's chosen puppet? Why would Masky show up just as Alex was about to shoot Jay and Jessica and hurt Alex, who, again, is the operator's favorite? Why would Masky show up at an abandoned house with a knife in his hand, sprint right past Jay, and try to stab Alex? If Hoodie and Masky were the operator's left and right hands, why would he ever allow them to team up, lure Alex out of his house into the woods, and then try smashing his head with a rock? Why would the operator's sudden appearance scare them away from Alex, leaving him unharmed? And if Tim's Masky state was a legitimate trance enacted by the operator, how could Hoodie ever lead him around and set him on kidnapping errands? That should be impossible. In every single one of their appearances together, Hoodie and Masky have been working against Alex and the operator in very obvious ways. Even on his own, Masky's been working against Alex, and he's supposed to be the most easily controlled by the operator's influence. The operator doesn't want Alex hurt. They've saved him from death and bodily harm several times now, and each one of those times, it's been to get Alex away from Hoodie and Masky. The truth is that Tim was almost never in an operator trance while wearing the mask. He has always been in control of his own mind while playing Masky. The only time this isn't true is when he abducts Jay in Season 1 and when Hoodie steals his pills and lets the operator take over. This time he does wear the mask, but look where he ends up. Rosswood Park, the one and only place he's always ended up when controlled by the operator according to his medical files. Tim only wears the mask now because if he didn't, we as an audience would know instantly that the operator doesn't need him to wear one, and all other clues about his true mental state as Masky would be too obvious. He wears the mask this time as a tool of the writing, not because Masky is an operator proxy. In fact, Troy and Joseph has stated several times that there are no proxies in Marble Hornets. The operator never has total control of his victims. So if Tim was sane the entire time he was Masky, why does he claim not to remember any time he wore the mask? Because now he's not lying. Tim really doesn't remember. The first meeting with Jay results in Tim barely acknowledging he knows him, and there's not a trace of hesitation in his actions. It's like Tim has forgotten Jay completely. After this meeting, Tim seems to act just fine around Jay and even becomes friendly. He gives Jay the tapes, takes him around the abandoned hospital until he gets suspicious of him, and doesn't even recognize Hoodie when he appears. Then, when Tim confronts Jay in the parking lot about his investigation, his anger and frustration seem way too real to be an act.
So much for the last few years makes so much sense now. I was doing fine. I was getting better, and then... Imagine waking up one morning in the backseat of your car, miles away from home, with blood in your hair, and you have no idea how that happened. Imagine waking up one morning with your leg broken and no memory whatsoever of that happening. Think about that. Imagine not being able to keep a job because you call into work one morning and they say, "Oh, we're sorry, we had to fire you because we haven't heard from you for the last 3 weeks."
The first incident must have been his break into Brian's house, Tim's first appearance as Masky. Remember what happened. Masky ran at Jay, struggled for a moment, then had a seizure on the floor and Jay escaped. Tim only has seizures brought on by mental attacks from the operator. If he's having a seizure now while attacking Jay, he did this while totally in control of himself. And then the operator suddenly appeared, causing a seizure. The same night, Jay loses his memory and wakes up in a place he doesn't recognize with no idea how he got there. The operator had clearly affected Jay, which we knew back then, but now we know it also hit Tim. In addition to the seizure fit, the operator wiped his memory. We know the operator leaves Tim's mind as a blank slate when it does take control, because the sequence of events is exactly what happened when Hoodie took Tim's pills later. Seizure fit, operator control, and then waking up with no memory of what happened. What about the other 2 times Tim mentioned losing his memory? Well, the broken leg one is one we all remember. Alex did it to put Tim down without killing him outright, but that wouldn't have been enough for the operator, who would have made sure Tim didn't go seeking revenge after he took care of his busted limb, so it wiped his mind to defend Alex. And finally, the 3 weeks out of work issue. That can be chalked up to the period of time Masky and Hoodie worked together during Season 2. There was a lot of Hoodie and Masky footage during that season, and it culminated in Masky and Hoodie's attempt to kidnap Jessica and Jay from the hotel, which was ruined by Alex, who brought the operator with him. Right after Jessica vanishes, Tim walks on scene looking slightly stunned and removes his mask. This is the very last action Masky is seen taking in the timeline before Jay encounters Tim looking very sane and coming out of the mental health clinic. It was after the Jessica incident that Tim decided to seek help and start getting better for good. That's why Tim sees Hoodie as an enemy instead of a former ally in Season 3. He has no memory of working with Hoodie at all because the operator wiped his mind again. The morning after the hotel incident would have been Tim's big wake-up call. Of course he kept the tape from that night a secret after finding it in his jacket the morning he and Jay woke up near the red shed. It really would have ruined everything. There was no way for Tim to explain what happened on that tape from his side of the story. The entire event and his motives that night were missing from Tim's memory. Mind wipes have actually played a prominent role in the series. A mental erasing session by the operator is the entire reason for Jay's missing 7 months at the start of Season 2. The operator can't kill anyone itself, so to protect Alex it does the only thing it is capable of, wiping out memories and all the knowledge, motives, and progress attached. If you can't remember your enemies, you'll never go after them. Now that we know what's really going on with Tim, we can see why his time with Hoodie is so broken up. Brian's secret identity was a genuine surprise for him. Tim used to know he was working for Brian, but after the Jessica incident, he no longer knew who Hoodie was. The operator took all those memories. And when I say working for Brian, I do mean it.
Yeah, I like Hoodie more because it's like, Hoodie was more interesting to write, I guess, because we've had it to where
it was harder to write.
Yeah.
Because he had more than a one-track mind.
Yeah, like, we use the analogy of Star Wars. When we were writing, we were like, okay, Masky is Darth Vader, Hoodie is the Emperor kind of thing, where it's like, he's the one directing that one.
One is physical, one is
cerebral. Yeah. Yeah. Whereas Masky is just like, I'm gonna tackle this with my face.
Yeah.
Hoodie was like, hey, you should tackle that with your face.
Brian was the plotter, the leader, the one who sent him to do what he needed as Masky. After every event of Tim losing his memory, Brian would help restore it and guide him back to the mission. But when Brian found Tim's medical records after the hotel incident and realized he'd been lying all along, he immediately decided against restoring Tim's memory again. He wasn't going through all that effort, work, and time to realign himself with a friend who had deceived him for years. Instead, Brian forced Tim and Jay to work together and guided them along to the finale at Benedict Hall. Brian wanted only one person dead, and it was Alex. He wanted Tim and Jay to live, which is why the word permanence flashes on the TV screen before their faces appear in surveillance. And even when Brian was being abusive towards Tim and manipulating Jay, Brian's intention was never to see either of them hurt. But how did Tim even get wrapped up in this? What led him to become Masky in the first place? His appearance in Brian's house seemed so sudden, and now that we know he was sane, how does it make sense for him to even be there? To solve this, we have to think about the beginning of Season 3. Jay finds Tim, whose mind has been wiped clean of absolutely everything to do with Masky, Hoodie, and Alex. He's back in the state of mind he had from Season 1. Jay mentions he's working on Marble Hornets, and Tim says he has a bunch of tapes from the set lying around, which Jay can have if he wants them. This means that for the entire duration of the series, Tim has had these tapes. And in those tapes, we witness Alex knocking Tim unconscious, hunting him through the woods at night, and leaving him for the operator at the abandoned hospital where Tim's most traumatic memories occurred. Shortly after Jay uploads those tapes, Tim asks for the meeting in the parking lot, and he begins his monologue with this.
So after our little field trip, I couldn't help but shake this feeling that there was something funny about you. So I do a search for Marble Hornets, and you want to know what I find?
Think about that sequence of events. Jay meets with Tim years after Marble Hornets was filmed, asks a whole bunch of questions about his time on set, and after Tim starts to wonder what's really going on, he does a web search for Marble Hornets and finds the YouTube channel with everything Jay's uploaded on it. In Season 1, Jay's very first step towards progress outside of viewing the tapes was to interview Tim. So Jay meets with Tim years after Marble Hornets was filmed, asks a whole bunch of questions about his time on set, and then doesn't contact him again. Tim's behavioral response to Jay's act in Season 3 was with an identical mindset to his mental state in Season 1. Jay didn't bother to keep tabs on Tim's actions after the interview in Season 1, so we didn't see his natural response to Jay's odd behavior. But in Season 3, we do, and Tim's natural response is to try a web search for Marble Hornets. We know during Season 1 that Alex was watching Marble Hornets from very early on. He was already active in the writing that these characters are fully capable of watching the videos being uploaded. Tim's mental state and memory in Season 3 is the same as in Season 1, which means his course of responsive behavior towards Jay would be identical in both periods of the timeline. The only difference between the events is one major factor that separates the results in each season. In Season 3, Tim gives his Marble Hornets set tapes to Jay almost immediately. In Season 1, Tim still had all of his tapes from the Marble Hornets set. And say, what was the most important event in that entire stash that Jay found? Let me run you through a scenario. It's a scenario we've already seen played out in Season 3, but now I want you to imagine it during Season 1. You are Tim, a guy who's had nothing to do with an abandoned college film for many, many years that you didn't even have a major role in. Along comes Jay, this guy from the set who is the director's assistant. Not the writer, not even the co-director, the assistant. He claims he wants to finish the film, but instead of doing all the normal things a casting director would do, he asks a whole lot of weird questions that seem unrelated to making a movie. You go home and start thinking about how weird that experience was, and as time goes by, you don't hear from Jay. So, on a whim, you do a search for Jay or a search for Marble Hornets, and you get a hit. The Marble Hornets YouTube channel. You're really curious now, so you start watching the uploads. There are extremely odd things in this footage. In fact, you don't remember half of it even happening. The more you watch, the more you realize these tapes are of so much more than a failed college film. And then you realize you still have some of the tapes. What if there's something on them you ought to see? What if there's something even bigger than what Jay found on the tapes that you have? So you take out the tapes, you sit down and you watch them, and what do you see? Alex walking up behind you and cracking a metal pipe over your head, followed by that monster from the videos appearing in the same room. You watch footage of Alex hunting you at night in the woods, leading to the abandoned hospital where you were mentally tortured as a kid. And while you're there, the monster from earlier comes back. And now it hits you. That was your hallucination, and Alex has been working with it all along. Alex wasn't just a really bad director. He was an evil person out to feed you to something horrifying you've spent your life trying to escape. You religiously watch the YouTube channel marking Jay's progress because the more he digs, it seems the closer he'll get to finding Alex. You truly hate Alex now. You want to find him, and you want him to pay. Jay goes to Brian's house, finds Brian is gone, and there is definitely violence involved with his disappearance. Those drawings you've seen Alex making in Jay's uploads are in the house, and knowing what Alex did to you, it wouldn't be surprising to find out he tried to hurt Brian as well. Then to the Arc, whoever they are uploads some kind of taunt for Jay to go back to the house. You don't know who this uploader is or what they're trying to do, but you want answers, and you're going to get them. You go out and buy a mask, then you mark it up to be scary. You go to Brian's house and hide out there, hoping to catch someone, anyone who you can interrogate. Jay's playing investigator, so why shouldn't you try it? But the only person you run into is Jay, and you hesitate to do anything when he spots you because you didn't know it would be him. But you can't just let him leave with that camera. It has evidence of you on it, and if you're going to find out what's happening, you won't let someone watching the Marble Hornets channel know what you're up to. You rush forward and try to tackle Jay, but have one of your infamous seizures, and the next morning... Say, where did this mask come from? In Masky's next appearance, we can assume he was under the influence of the operator due to all the visual tearing in Jay's vanishing act. After all, Jay's destination in entry number 19 is Brian's house, where he lays in the hallway staring at the operator. It's after this event that To The Arc seems to recruit Brian as Hoodie behind the scenes and then Tim as Masky. It may be that the founding member of To The Arc convinced Brian they needed Tim after seeing his activities online, and if they were all after Alex, it only made sense to form an alliance. Tim was clearly ready to do things most people would shy away from. And there you have it. Brian is attacked by Alex. At the same time, Tim investigates Marble Hornets online, finds out what Jay's doing, views his own tapes from the set, and learns what Alex did to him. He tries to investigate Brian's disappearance as Masky after seeing To The Arc's upload but fails and loses his memory. To The Arc reaches out to him, and soon, Brian and Tim, who are old best friends, reunite over their mutual need to make Alex suffer. Along with the founding member of To The Arc, they work together to guide Jay on his path so he can dig up Alex while they stay in the shadows. Unfortunately, Tim keeps getting mind-wiped by the operator because he's far more susceptible to the attacks than Brian, having been infected since childhood. And each time Tim is taken out, Brian comes back to reintroduce him to the fold, until he finds Tim's medical records after their attempt to rescue Jessica from the hotel failed and Brian realizes Tim was lying the whole time. Keep in mind that the entirety of Season 2 past the opening in the hotel took place over the course of 7 months before the hotel incident. When Jay uploads a tape of Tim's leg being smashed by Alex, Hoodie responds by saying he's enjoying watching him suffer. This upload comes well after their failed mission at the hotel. This means in the time between the hotel incident and Jay's upload of Tim being put out of commission by Alex, Hoodie and Masky had some sort of falling out, which, more likely than not, would be the discovery of his medical records. Remember, the morning of the hotel incident, Tim wakes up and wanders around, lost and confused after a fresh mind wave from the operator. He takes his mask off and realizes he can't keep allowing this to happen. He has to seek help. So he goes to the doctor and starts heavy treatment. Brian, being the most legendary stalker in the series, would have easily tracked Tim to one of his appointments, become curious about his medical history, found a way to get a hold of the files, and realized Tim's been lying about picking up operator sickness from Alex during Marble Hornets. Tim was patient zero. After being friends for so long and forming such a deep alliance, Brian would have felt betrayed and angry. He'd become callous towards Tim, and instead of going through the labor of making him an ally yet again and restoring his memory, he'd just pair him with Jay and guide them both on a course of his choosing. Brian can't trust Tim ever again. It's just not worth it to try. So he just watches Jay's uploads in Season 2, responding when he has something to say, and waits for Jay to finish while Tim continues treatment at the clinic. By the time Jay is back in the field, Tim is rehabilitated and Hoodie has made up his mind about what happens next. In the end, Tim really didn't know who he was as Masky, or that Brian was Hoodie. He was just as lost and confused as Jay. Before his mind wipe as Masky after the hotel incident, Tim did what he thought was right by working with Brian into the Ark to put Alex down for good. After all, the three of them together had been severely burned by Alex, and revenge was well overdue. And yes, it's finally that time. Hoodie was Brian, Masky was Tim, and Scully was Jay before the idea was cancelled in the writing. So, with all those other secret identities revealed, it's time to tackle the big one. Who is To The Arc?
Who was To The Arc?
What is To The Arc?
Like, who was it, like, in the end? Because the series over and I still haven't figured it out.
It is...
Yes.
Yes.
That's one of those things where we kind of have an idea in our head who it was.
Well, we know who it was, yeah.
Right, but we kind of want to leave it ambiguous.
A little bit, yeah.
Even then, there's some wiggle room with our interpretation of who it was.
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry to give an unsatisfactory answer, but some things in Marble Hornets will just stay a mystery.
Now before you even begin thinking about what was just said, let me cut you off. I didn't show you this footage to say, oh, it's all a mystery and it'll never be solved because it's meant to be that way. The setup, the details, the reactions, and the answers from all three of the Marble Hornets guys gives it away. Here, listen to this again.
Like, who was it, like, in the end? Because the series over and I still haven't figured it out.
Yes, the series is over at the time this panel is taking place. ConnecticCon is a convention in Hartford, Connecticut that's held every July, and last year was no exception. In June of 2014, Marble Hornets ended with entry number 87, and a few weeks have passed between the ending and this question being recorded. At the end of the series, we know for a fact that Hoodie was a major player in uploading to the channel, and they revealed it in very obvious ways at several points. In the final To The Arc video, Hoodie signs off for good and leaves the clue that he is Brian. We have Brian's name under regards, and we also have the appearance of the Hoodie mask in the same sequence. We know Tim was a major part of it too because he stood still for quite a few shoots during Season 1's videos, and we've established he was sane the whole time. Hoodie and Masky, aka Brian and Tim, were obvious members of To The Arc. The audience knows this, the writers know this, and the writers know how obvious it is for everyone too because they made it to be obvious. So why didn't Troy and Joseph just shrug and say Hoodie and Masky? Because it's not that simple.
It's one of those things where we kind of have an idea in our head who it was.
Well, we know who it was, yeah.
Right, but we kind of want to leave it ambiguous.
A little bit, yeah.
Even without Tim's comment, Joseph's answer alone is enough to read between the lines. But I'd be lying if I didn't say Tim's comment and Joseph's reply were extremely helpful. The writers of Marble Hornets do know, for a fact, who To The Arc is. After making it so glaringly obvious on purpose in the series that Hoodie and Masky were both To The Arc at several points and then not confirming it was only them at this panel, it's clear they weren't alone. We know there was a third member of To The Arc through the classified video, the extraction video directly tied to it, and the fact that To The Arc tells Masky to return to us in Season 1. If it had just been Hoodie in Season 1 as To The Arc telling Tim to come back, he wouldn't have said return to us. And because Hoodie is Brian, there's no possibility To The Arc was only ever Hoodie and Masky, because To The Arc's advocate video is a message to Jay telling him he needed to save Brian from Alex. If Hoodie was To The Arc at this point, he wouldn't need to make this video because Hoodie was Brian, would know Alex was coming for him, and didn't need to be rescued. We've all seen how Brian acts as Hoodie. He's very capable of taking things on himself when it comes to violence. Brian also wouldn't show his own face on To The Arc's channel. The entire idea behind Hoodie is that he's trying to keep his identity a secret. You can argue that Brian staged the entire angle and advocate on purpose to lead Jay to his home, but the evidence against it stacks up so much stronger than this one instance. A truly major component of solving To The Arc codes is finding the cipher, a key that decodes encrypted messages. Usually the cipher is in the video, or the code being used is well known, so the cipher is already out there. To The Arc encoded almost everything they did, and that includes their identity. The cipher to some of the more quiet aspects of the puzzle box is so all-encompassing, it touches all 3 members and their identities, and we were given that cipher a very long time ago. Do you remember in Season 2's review, we explored how messages and attention seemed extremely similar on all fronts? I originally said that if To The Arc's videos are like a game of matching pairs, messages and attention make the most obvious cohesive pair. Through that analysis, we discovered To The Arc uses old black and white footage to speak directly to Tim, aka Masky, whose appearance is black and white. And there's one more color that's distinctive of Masky, right? That mustard yellow jacket. Wait, mustard yellow jacket? Who else wears something you could call mustard yellow? Hoodie. Both of them work together for a major portion of the series, both wear masks, and both wear the same color jacket. Hoodie and Masky, otherwise known as the twins by To The Arc. That makes 2 instances of color coding by To The Arc. When addressing Tim, they use the theme of black and white, and Tim's mask is black and white. In addressing both Hoodie and Masky, who wear the exact same color jackets, To The Arc calls them the twins. That's not the end of the story though. The other half begins with another game of matching pairs we called out earlier. Signal and Broadcast both have distinct red and blue stereoscopic shading, and their names are related. Each has a theme of water. Signal's footage comes from silent snow, secret snow, snow being just another form of rain, and Broadcast is shot from underwater with the video description message, "Are you drowning?" These 2 videos are directly linked, and while we established earlier that the person in Broadcast wasn't Masky, at the time of release it was a mystery as to who exactly was standing there. We hadn't met Hoodie yet. In entry number 67, Jay uploads the tape Hoodie left at the abandoned hospital. In that tape, Hoodie rescues Tim after the events of entry number 65, patrols the halls, knocks out Alex, and tries to kill him. During this entire entry, the camera is in Hoodie's hands, and the footage keeps getting distorted by red and blue stereoscopic shading. This is the most prominent, most frequent form of distortion that rocks the camera for the duration of the video, and we barely ever see it when Jay is recording. Hoodie's distortion signature is stereoscopic shading. He was the figure in Broadcast. You can see it's his silhouette, and only he would be telling Tim, "Enjoying watching you suffer." This isn't the last time distortion colors play an important role, but let's just acknowledge the breakdown so far. Black and white videos with very old film from To The Arc are directed at Tim. Red and blue stereoscopic shading means a video was created by Brian. The color of Hoodie and Masky's jackets are what led To The Arc to call them the twins. Color themes play a major part in solving To The Arc's codes, and when it comes to applying colors to members of the club, the founder didn't leave themselves out. Remember how jarring it was to see those vivid red colors in Classified and Extraction? It kinda came out of nowhere, didn't it? Solid red, red lighting, and until this point we've never seen such a strong amount of red in a video from To The Arc. Or at least, you'd think so, considering how long it's been since the last and very first time it happened. In To The Arc's version, the red tower is shown so Jay understands how important it is. At the end of the video, we see a solid red X. That makes 2 shots of solid red in the same video. Classified and Extraction are known videos from To The Arc's founder, and again, if we're playing the matching pairs game that worked for Masky and Hoodie's codes, it means the identifying color for To The Arc's founder is solid red. Going back to Virgin, we know the idea behind it is to go to the red tower. At the red tower, Jay discovers a tape left for him by To The Arc revealing Seth was given over to the operator by Alex. Virgin was meant to capitalize the message To The Arc left on the back of their fake operator pages in Brian's house. The same person who uploaded Advocate left the pages in Brian's house, and they uploaded Virgin. Let's review the facts we have about To The Arc. The founding member has made their self-identifying color red. They left a tape of Alex leading Seth to the operator during the filming of Marble Hornets in the Red Tower. They were an original member of the Marble Hornets crew. They had access to tapes Jay didn't have and proved it several times. They were the one filming behind-the-scenes footage in Brian's house during entry number 20. Now, keep in mind that Season 1 and everything in it was only meant to be one complete story. The writing behind it and everything that happens must make sense on its own without further development, and that means the character of To The Arc and their identity must be comprehensible from Season 1 alone. We have all the evidence we need after Season 1 for confirmation, but still, if you look at the writing and character motivations during Season 1 in a vacuum, it should become clear. The founding member of To The Arc is Seth, Alex's cameraman. As part of the original Marble Hornets crew, Seth was responsible for recording all their scenes and keeping the many tapes Alex had. Seth had constant access to the tapes and video equipment, was around the set and actors constantly, and experienced more of Alex's cruelty than anyone else. As someone who handled the tapes, Seth would have been alerted to something as strange as the operator appearing in them before Alex himself would. In fact, the very first appearance of the operator on set in the timeline is in entry number 12. In this entry, we hear Alex tell Seth to handle the camera as he and Brian cross the field, so we know Seth is filming. To the Arc's founding member also included a clip from entry number 20 in the extraction video, and we know in entry number 20, Jay made it a point on Twitter he can't remember who was filming. It wasn't Jay and Alex, it wasn't Tim who comes in later, and we know it wasn't Brian. At the beginning of the tape, Alex establishes they're in Brian's house, but he isn't with them. Jay remarks that he doesn't know where Brian is either. There are only two candidates left, Seth or Sarah. Out of all the people Alex would choose to make sit down at a behind-the-scenes shoot and hold the camera, it would make much more sense for Seth to be chosen. As someone who knows cameras, Seth would easily see what Alex tried to do in entry number 14 and expose it through the program code. Seth would have tapes from the set Jay didn't and know how to work with them, which we know To The Arc does because they had the audio from entry number 10, separate tapes from entry number 7, and the Red Tower tape. To The Arc wanted Alex to suffer. They knew what he did to Seth, and they knew the operator. Again, if you look at Season 1 in a vacuum, there's only one character at all who was a Marble Hornets crew member that had video equipment, access to the tapes, and a motive to hate Alex. Seth was humiliated and talked down to in his very first appearance and led to the operator by Alex. The tape of Seth being given to the operator will always be linked to the Red Tower. That's why the color red is To The Arc's signature. This was the moment Seth met the monster he's obsessed with and became To The Arc. And as for that Noah's Ark metaphor he had going, it becomes very useful much later for confirming Seth's identity. We only ever see Seth in front of the camera on 2 occasions, in Season 1 during his first appearance, and in Season 3 during entry number 54. I'm going to play the beginning, and I want you all to pay attention to what you see and what you hear.
Yeah, I got it.
Well, that was exciting, I guess is the word.
That was fun.
Oh yeah, pouring rain. Awesome. Have you seen Alex?
Oh, he said he was gonna run home and change shirts because obviously he's kind of soaking right now, but he said he was gonna be back in a little bit, so.
Aren't the tapes in this car?
Yeah, unless you want to wait for him, you should probably go.
Alright, I'll see you.
See ya.
Seth's second and last appearance in the series is hiding under a stairway with Jay and Tim, wiping off his glasses after being caught in a rainstorm. Oh, and what was it he said?
Oh yeah, pouring rain. Awesome.
We haven't seen Seth since his first appearance in Season 1, and all the way in Season 3, this is how he's brought back. The Marble Hornets team could have chosen any night under any condition at all to create this scene. They have full creative control over what they shoot, under what conditions they shoot it, and at what time. For the kind of content that works as the core of this entry, they didn't even need Seth or Jay to appear, but they chose to do it and chose to film the scene in a pouring rainstorm, with that kind of dialogue coming straight from Seth's mouth. This isn't coincidence, this is confirmation. To The Arc's entire hang-up has been water imagery, rainstorms, a flood. Seth was brought back under these exact conditions, not ideal for anyone to shoot anything in, to underscore the point that he is To The Arc. Seth fits the profile better than anyone. He is To The Arc. We have more than enough evidence for it beyond logical writing, but the idea that Sarah was To The Arc maintained by some fans is not entirely illogical either, actually. Joseph stated To The Arc's true identity is meant to be ambiguous, even if a genuine answer can be found by puzzle solving. Seth and Sarah's complete lack of being caught literally red-handed as To The Arc means there is no true conviction. We don't have a smoking gun, and we never will. I'll also admit there is some potential evidence and motive for Sarah. In entry number 20, the person holding the camera appears to be shorter than Alex and Tim. Seth is shorter than Alex, but not by much, and he's taller than Tim. But Sarah is shorter than both of them and could easily be the camera if she were holding it at eye level. But that doesn't really mean anything. Seth could just be holding it at chin level or slightly lower and looking at the screen for guidance. It's very circumstantial, and there isn't nearly enough proof to say who's behind it by the camera's height. As for motive, there's no doubt Alex led Sarah to the operator at some point as well, and that's motive enough to despise him. But when you put all the puzzle pieces and evidence together, there's no other candidate that fits the profile as perfectly as Seth, and To The Arc's color coding makes far too much sense. You can also add that their second identifier, the symbol of the watching eye, directly relates to cameras and the act of being a cameraman. Seth was the eye of the camera for Marble Hornets, and he'd used that symbolism as another code in the way he made the red tower's color his signature. We can also mention that, just like with Tim and Brian's matching pair cipher videos, To The Arc's classified and extraction also work as a matching pair for the color cipher. And there you have it. Tim was Masky, Brian was Hoodie, and Seth was To The Arc. So, what does that make Alex? Considering that Seth was using the Noah's Ark analogy throughout the series, there's got to be more to work with than rain and flood imagery, right? After all, at the end of the story, Brian still wants Jay to find Alex and the Ark. So why is finding Alex crucial to finding the Ark? In the metaphor set up for the story, the operator is God, Alex is Noah, and Noah can be found on his Ark, hiding from the flood that drowns the unworthy. It's been said by the writers that coughing fits suffered by operator victims are meant to mimic the same kind of coughing and hacking a drowning victim would exhibit after being rescued, because operator sickness creates the sensation of drowning. This is why Tim ended up underwater so frequently in the portaling sequence of entry number 65. The metaphor was made visual and literal so we can make a connection with the character who coughs in almost every appearance. We know Alex is a sufferer too because he has coughing fits and hacks up blood, but at the beginning of the story, when To The Arc's identity, name, motive, and mentality were written, the portions revealing Alex also has operator sickness hadn't been thought of. In Season 1, he certainly shows signs of being the operator's favorite. After all, he's marked by stigmata, and To The Arc designated him Noah in their metaphor. But we do need to bear in mind there was a lot of retroactive writing and rewriting from Season 1 onward. If the idea of Alex being special through stigmata was scrapped, it meant any operator sickness immunity also had to go. If you look at Season 1 with no knowledge Alex would show symptoms later, the metaphor stands up. Anyone who coughs too much and coughs up blood has operator sickness, which means they're caught in the flood and are drowning. Alex is the operator's chosen survivor, which means he is Noah, and the operator is God. The entire purpose of To The Arc's channel was to find Alex, and where else would you look for Noah in the middle of a rainstorm than on his life-saving Ark? But what exactly is the Ark? Troy and Joseph have done their best to duck this question at panels and interviews, but mention the clues are there if you look for them. This is where the distortion color code comes back into play. Check out this sequence from To The Arc's message, DK. The lines come right after the segment of footage they're speaking about. We see Jay on the floor, and then we're told, "He will lead me to you." Jay unfolds a pocket knife in his car, an instrument of killing, and we see, "Lead me to death." Then we see the woods displayed in burning bright orange distortion, followed by the message, "Lead me to the Ark." And there's one special piece about this part of the sequence in particular. The message, "Lead me to the Ark," flashes over the orange woods just before it cuts out. In To The Arc's video file, we see Tim's visit to the strange place the operator took the body of the man in the tunnel. As Tim steps up to the body, heavy orange distortion burns on the sides of the image. Now, we know the writers like to encode things using a matching pairs approach. We've got one strong instance of Tim finding someone's dead body in a place it shouldn't be after portaling marked by orange distortion, but do we have another? Yes, we do. When Tim is chasing Hoodie in entry number 83, he appears in his own house and sees the mirror with "Your fault" written on it. As he turns around, there's a heavy wave of bright orange distortion, and then he sees Jay's body on a pile of operator pages. There we have it, the second match. But in case this isn't enough for you, there's a message left by the writers to hammer in the point. Most of the operator pages have operator symbols on them, but a few have writing, and on the right side, there is a page with the clear words, "The Ark." This is the one and only operator page in the entire series that even mentions the Ark. And if that's still not enough for you, we know Brian meant his final To The Arc video to be his last because he fully intended on a showdown with Tim. He knew exactly where he was going to lead Tim on their chase and set up his goodbye and intention in his last video, Null. Ark awaits. The Ark is the alternate dimension where the operator takes Alex's murder victims. Just like Noah, he's collecting bodies, and while they weren't exactly animals, this metaphor was never as tightly knit as it could be, especially after story threads and symbolism from Season 1 were abandoned, leaving Alex as open to the drowning condition as the others. It does go without saying that Alex is special to the operator though. It seems to have bonded with him in a way that keeps Alex attached and could have made him a suitable host in time. So why did the members of To The Arc need to find the Ark so badly? The clearest answer is that they needed to find Alex, and wherever the Ark was, Alex would be, just like Noah with his Ark. In Season 1, the intention might have been that Alex, being almost a free agent of the operator's total will, had the secret to beating it outright, and that's what Seth wanted. It might have been that Seth needed the Ark to find any more victims Alex had killed. The Ark is clearly where all the bodies went, and there was no way of knowing just how lethal Alex was unless you found his graveyard. If you wanted to expose Alex as a murderer, finding bodies of his victims would have tied him down as a killer. After all, we did go to the Ark a lot just to see that a person's dead body was dragged there by the operator. No matter what the reason originally was, the end writing led to only one purpose: finding Alex and shutting him down. And thanks to Tim, that goal was met at last. When you finally stop to think about everything we've revealed, you begin to realize that Marble Hornets was never actually a horror story. It was a revenge story. 3 friends whose lives are destroyed by the same person team up to return the favor. Jay's investigation is a mystery and horror story, but for Seth, Brian, and Tim, it's always been about revenge. Alex was the only one they ever wanted to hurt, and their hatred for him was so strong they would manipulate and terrorize Jay and even Tim later to reach that goal. It's even Seth who tells Alex, "How much do you hate? It is not enough." Because no matter how badly Alex hates them, their hatred of him completely outweighs it. But after Jay is killed in action on top of Jessica going missing and no contact from Seth, Brian must have been convinced there was nothing more to do but get Tim ready to fight and then die. As sad as that is, it's what Tim tells Alex in their final confrontation. Brian had become a shell of his former self, obsessed with his mission. Once that mission was broken beyond repair, Brian had nothing left to lose and just wanted it all to be over. And from the end speech Alex gives about his motives in the story, it seems that Seth might have gone radio silent because Alex did find and kill him, leaving Brian as the sole member of To The Arc. If Brian had actual confirmation of this, it would have made his mental state much darker and convinced him there was nothing left to fight for. Either Tim wins or he loses, and after that, who knows? Brian wouldn't stay to find out. This is why Tim is left as the sole survivor of the original 4 characters. After all this chaos and insanity, being an active member of both To The Arc and Jay's investigation, he takes care of the disease he unknowingly started. Brian's final words to Tim are extremely bitter, but technically, he's right. Tim had kept the operator a secret well beyond the point when he should have confessed, and his only way to make amends is to be the one who clears the infection out for good. Alex is dead. Hoodie is dead. The operator's one weakness has been found. Everything is fine. Except we know that's not true. And at last, that's it. We are finally finished with Marble Hornets. The story is over, all secrets are revealed, and I am tired. The sunrise is coming through the cracks in my blockades, and it's time for me to go to sleep. The only pieces left of Marble Hornets I could possibly touch on are Easter eggs and trivia, but if you'd care to learn about that, let me know in the comments below and I'll make an odds and ends video to cap off this explanation series. Even without one, if you have any questions left about the series, ask below and I'll answer to the best of my ability. So once more, thanks again for joining me in the dark this evening. If you enjoyed this video and I helped clear up some questions, go ahead and give it a like and leave any comments you may have. Remember to join your fellow creatures of the night and subscribe to the Nightmind channel to catch upcoming news, reviews, profiles, and more. Especially concerning the brand new series from the team behind Marble Hornets, Clear Lakes 44. You know we'll be covering this for sure. As always, your support is extremely appreciated, especially for standing by me through this series. The support I've seen in the comments, in the views, in the likes, it's been, frankly, overwhelming. Thank you, and thank you again. You have no idea what this means to me. I truly, truly appreciate it. So, that's all for now, everyone. Make a toast to yourselves for finishing this video alone and then make a second one if you survive this entire explanation series with me. You've earned it. Now, go get some rest. But before you do, remember to check your surveillance footage, take your medications, and burn all your old videotapes just in case. As always, I'm Nick Nocturne, and unlike Alex, I'll be seeing you again real soon. Sleep tight.